those who know me know I like a good fight,
Mhm.
and I like to fight against Republicans, and I'm not interested in the status quo. So I have long wanted to get into the legislature, and I think our legislature could be doing a whole lot more than it's doing right now. And there seems to be an attitude of this is as good as it gets.
Mhm.
So quit trying to rock the boat. But rocking the boat is my wheelhouse.
Alrighty, welcome back. Alabama Politics This Week. Josh Moon, David Person, and we are happy now to be joined by Tabitha Isner, who is... I don't know if I ought to introduce you twice, is because we're going to talk to you about some stuff going on with the party, some good things that are happening with the Alabama Democratic Party, where you are the vice chair, and then also you are a candidate. Now, do you have to resign, or can you run as and be the vice chair?
Yeah, you can run. If I had a primary,
Uh-huh.
I might have to resign. We don't have any policies about that in the Democratic Party.
Oh,
But the general best practice is that you should
yeah,
not be discouraging any Democratic candidate or
sure.
favoring one over the other. But since I don't have a Democratic primary, I can root for me,
Nice.
unapologetically root for me.
Nice. Yeah. So you are running for Senate District 26 against Willie Barfoot down there, who has been so fantastic for the people of Montgomery,
Mhm.
and doing his worst, killing things left and right, and implementing other things that have really been fairly awful. And so I look forward to a lot of the campaign ads and a lot of the campaign commercials. And hey, we do advertise here, if you'd like. Just throwing it out there. Just throwing it out
Yeah,
there.
good to know.
So,
Mhm.
what made you get in? What made you take off in this direction? And how's it been so far?
Yeah. Well, and those who know me know I like a good fight,
Mm-hmm.
and I like to fight against Republicans, and I'm not interested in the status quo. So I have long wanted to get into the legislature, and I think our legislature could be doing a whole lot more than it's doing right now. And there seems to be an attitude of this is as good as it gets.
Mm-hmm.
So quit trying to rock the boat. But rocking the boat is my wheelhouse. So I intend to just keep rocking, and see if we can't make some changes that benefit the people of Alabama.
Well, in that fight in particular, so that district has kind of been shuffled around a bit, and so the court ordered it to be redrawn, and so we we let a kid do it, and an unpaid kid redrew it, which he did fine. I guess he did an okay job. I'm not knocking him, but I mean it just seems kind of crazy to me that that's the way we went. That some unpaid kid could do a better job than our legislature. And so that district now that you're in is portions of Montgomery, but also Elmore County, right?
Mhm.
A good
Yeah.
chunk of Elmore County where Democrats do so great. Because why would you vote for people that want to give you a better social safety net when you're in Elmore County living large, up in Slapout? But I just what do you look at? Like, is it a 50-50 kind of thing at this point? Is that what
Yeah.
we're basically looking at?
Yeah. This is a district where Doug Jones reelection campaign in 2020,
Mm-hmm.
Doug Jones got 54% of the vote.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in 2024, Kamala Harris got only 47% of the vote.
Mm.
So this is a district where if people show up and if they're excited and if they're motivated,
Right.
I can win. We can win. And if people feel kind of disregarded and disengaged from the political process, then Republicans win. So I think that's the fundamental challenge that we're up against, is convincing people that it's this is an exciting year. And I don't think that's going to be a hard sell. I think everyone across the country, frankly, is feeling like this is a time when big things are happening in the world and political shifts are happening. And so I don't think we'll have trouble motivating people, but I plan to do the work to make sure.
You know, Tabitha, one of the things that I heard our friend Anthony Daniels talk about recently, House Minority Leader Anthony Daniels, is the literally hundreds of thousands of untapped votes that are out there. And I think, if I remember what he said correctly, a good percentage of those votes are in or near the vicinity of the district that you're running on. How do we get people who have basically disengaged from the political process? How do we get them to reengage?
I think the fundamental issue is that people don't have a sense that it matters who you elect. I mean, that's why they're disengaged, because what they hear from, well, A, because of gerrymandering, uh, we don't have very many competitive districts. So Montgomery has safely Democratic seats, and Democrats don't have to show up to vote, and still the Democrat will win because they're gerrymandered to be so safely Democratic. There are a few Republican districts where similarly, it doesn't matter how much Democrats show up, they're going to go Republican. So people sense that their vote doesn't matter because it's never close.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, I think people have lost track of, no longer have confidence that there are people who are trying to make a real change for them, like that their elected officials are empowered and powerful enough to actually make a change. So, people see potholes or see, streetlights that are out, and they don't immediately think to themselves, I need to call my representative. They'll take care of this. They think to themselves, that's just how it is. That's just
Hmm.
how it is. And the that's just how it is mentality is very strong in Montgomery. People don't feel like, your choice is going to be this guy who will serve the wealthy folks or this guy who will serve the wealthy folks. This guy with a D
Hmm.
or this guy with an R. But it doesn't really matter which one you pick. They're not going to be looking out for my best interest. They're not going to be looking out for my community. And it's a tough hole to dig ourselves out of, but it requires people beginning to understand that they do have the power to fix your problems. Many of the problems in our communities can be fixed by elected representatives who care. And the reason that they've gotten maybe a little bit sloppy or slow on the job is because there isn't a lot of pressure from the people to make it happen. We've stopped asking. We've stopped
Hmm.
asking for things from our elected representatives, and we need to start getting a little more demanding.
So this is not your first rodeo as a candidate in the state of Alabama. I think, according to what I see here, your last attempt at being elected was in 2018. Is that right? Is that correct?
hmm hmm
Okay.
Yeah, I ran for
So
Congress
that
in 2018, really because I
right.
wanted to get my feet wet in politics in Alabama. And,
Yeah.
um, I knew that that wasn't a winnable seat. It was a very long shot run.
Hmm.
But there's no better way to get to know a place than to get out and hit the pavement.
Yeah, sure. So that was 8 years ago. A lot has changed in 8 years. What do you think you'll do differently as a candidate, if anything, than what you did 8 years ago?
Mm. Yeah, great question. So I I didn't know a lot of people when I ran in 2018. Um, I was really just getting to know the community, and so made a lot of mistakes that way. Didn't know who I needed to be talking to. Didn't know who the community leaders were, and so it's a lot easier this time because I've already made a lot of those connections over the last 8 years. Um, I think too, I worried a lot the first time I ran about People give you a lot of advice when you're running for office. And every little bit of advice I took very seriously in 2018. And it sometimes felt like, it always felt like I couldn't possibly keep everybody happy. Somebody wanted me to wear more makeup and somebody wanted me to wear less. And somebody wanted me to smile more and somebody wanted me to smile less. And somebody wanted me to moderate my opinions and somebody wanted me to be bolder. You can't keep everybody happy. And I think over the course of the last 8 years, I'm more clear on who I am and what I will and won't compromise. And I think I'm putting myself out as somebody who is absolutely listening to the community, but is not going to listen to every last bit of whispered advice in my ear.
Yeah. You know, I thought I was done asking questions, but then when you said what you just said, I just had to shake my head. My God, I mean, running as a woman must be incredibly frustrating at times because nobody's asking men about how they should moderate their appearance or whether or not they should smile more or not, or if they are, I don't hear about it.
Right.
I mean, and they definitely don't tell them to tamp down their opinions. I mean, do you think that what I'm saying is true, or do you think that gender doesn't really factor into how people respond to candidates?
Yeah, no, and listen, and as you're answering this, smile more and be bold.
That's right. Smile, but don't seem smug.
That's right. Yes.
Right.
That's right.
Be confident, but not too confident. I'm a little young to be doing this. They tell me I'm turning 45 soon. And I get the aren't you a little young for this?
I'd say that's a pretty good compliment. Yeah, I always say yes. Yes, I am.
Right.
I'm an overachiever.
Yeah. Yes. What can I say? Yeah. No, I do think it's really hard as a woman to run. And I think people don't notice they're doing it. And women give me as much of that feedback as men do. And I think so often it's coming from even when it's coming from a place of support, people know how hard it is to be a woman out there and how every little thing is going to be held against you. Don't seem too emotional. Don't seem too stoic. All of the catch-22s. And my skin is just a lot thicker in 2026 than it was in 2018. I've been through it, and I'm going to put that thick skin to good use.
I want to backtrack for just a second back to the getting people engaged thing. Because it seems like what often happens whenever you get it. I think we all point to Georgia, and how they were able to kind of turn things around over the course of time and get people engaged there. But it often seems like there are just a handful of key issues, and usually really one or two, that are used to kind of illustrate to people, hey, this affects you. You've got to do this to have these things that we need. Okay. If you would go and vote, then you could get this person who's going to do this for you. And so do we have that this time around? Do we have that right? I mean, it seems like this would be a fantastic time for the Democrats, on the ballot. I mean, I know there's a lot of excitement around there, but do we have those sort of issues that we can pitch to the folks who aren't engaged?
Yeah. I mean, I think Medicaid expansion, I think is one that a Doug Jones governorship could make that happen. I think the Public Service Commission is another area where I'm really passionate about keeping that an elected position, because what I love about the Public Service Commission is that it's a single issue. People so rarely get to vote on a single issue. You've got to decide if you want this person and all their opinions or this person and and nobody agrees with anybody 100%. Whereas something like the Public Service Commission, that's getting closer to direct democracy, right? Where you get to decide specifically, do I want lower rates?
I mean,
and who doesn't?
Look, I understand what you're saying, but I mean, I just, this whole outrage over this, if we let the power companies pick the people, we could have not done worse voting for them.
Okay, but
over the last 30 years.
Look at the timing of this, Josh. Like,
why? No, I'm good. No, I think you're right. I think you're right about that. I'm just saying. It seems like an issue where, as I wrote today, literal lumps of coal would have been better than Twinkle Kavanaugh. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I also think, like, the reason they didn't bother to do this 10 years ago was because there wasn't a danger that the people were going to pay attention to.
Well, that's not what happened in Georgia. I mean, they saw what happened in Georgia. I mean, let's just be honest. That's what happened. I mean, that's what prompted this. They're worried that some other similar thing might happen here, and you're going to elect some people. And they're going to be stuck with them for 4 years, and it's going to upset whatever they're doing. So, no, I get that. I'm just saying the people here have been so god awful at it. It does seem like, I don't know. I'm hopeful that people will change. Okay, I'm hopeful that will change, but I don't know, man. It putting some parameters in there for people who can serve is that seems like it would be not a bad thing, but I don't know. But I think it is a good issue. I do think it is a good issue.
Yeah, I mean, I think the idea that democracy is on the ballot, like, now is not the time. 2026 is not the year to be getting rid of democracy. Like, we're having enough troubles with democracy. We're protecting it and ensuring that we have elections. We don't need to take any more away. But to loop this back to the engagement piece, you look at states that have high levels of engagement. They are often the same states where they have more direct democracy options, like ballot initiatives, voter-initiated ballot initiatives. In states where voters can say, we really want something, we're going to collect signatures, get that petition approved, and get something on the ballot, and then we're going to vote for it. Like, that's a prime way that you can get more people involved in the democratic process and to understand their role in civics. And that's banned in Alabama. Like, we don't allow people to do that because we want all the control to be at the legislature. Local governments can't make decisions for themselves because the state legislature has, gotten rid of home rule. Like, all of these are examples of ways in which the legislature has designed the political system in Alabama to reduce voter involvement, to take control away from the people and centralize it in Montgomery. And who's pushing back against that anymore? Like, my concern is that too many people have said that's just how it is. And you might as well just let it happen. Might as well let them choose everything because that's what they're going to do anyway. They're going to find a way to control everything. So let's hand it over freely. One less thing for us to worry about. That is not paying off for Alabama.
No. Listen, I mean, the whole thing is pretty ludicrous if you think about it. I mean, the way that we have. I mean, if you listen to people talk, you would think that this place is being run by a bunch of liberals, okay? Because you hear, well, we can't look, how terrible Democrats are about running things, but, look how awful the stuff is, and then they cite things that have been run for the last 20 years by Republicans, and conservatives. And it's so mind-boggling there must be a lot of empty space up in those brains, but it just is, I just don't understand what the thinking is a lot of the time. And so we've divided it into teams for the most part, and that's what they've done. They've basically made it Alabama versus Auburn in voting, and then they've trashed the other side to the point where it's a bad word to be called a Democrat, and so now you're just battling this and that was kind of the point that I was making in the piece I wrote today about the PSC thing. You've elected people that nobody. I mean, if they went and did their absolute worst at choosing people, these are the people they would choose, and you chose them for them, and you did it just based on this team concept of voting. And so, that to me has got to be something that we get past. And I don't know. I mean, maybe there's some willingness now to move around that. I mean, do you see that there's some willingness among voters to give Democrats a chance to say, hey, these folks might have some decent ideas because we're getting hosed by these other folks?
Yeah, I don't know if people are ready to give Democrats a chance. I want them to, obviously, but I think people are ready to give major change makers a chance.
Mm-hmm.
Like Mamdani is crazy popular, not just among Democrats, but amongst people who are tired of politics in general. They're tired of the status quo. And I think that's what Trump and Mamdani have in common is that they are rejecting the status quo, and that is appealing to people. And same thing with, Bernie and AOC. There are a lot of Trump voters who wouldn't mind AOC because at least she's a fighter.
Yeah.
At least she's starting stuff. At least she's going to shake things up. Or same with Mamdani or Bernie. Like, it is less about policy and more about this status quo does not work. Our teams, rather than being blue and red, our teams are like elite and regular. And when you reframe the issue that way, then I think people start shifting. And I think that's really going to be the silver lining of the horrible moment we're in as a country right now is a realignment of teams. And an understanding that like what we need in leadership are people who are bold and willing to try stuff and not willing to be restricted by the same old rules of this is how it's always done.
Right.
We need people who are, say we don't have to do it like that anymore. What if we don't? What if we don't do it like that anymore?
Hey, Tabitha, before you go, I want to go back to something that you said earlier. You talked about Medicaid expansion and how you think that under a Democratic governor, you said Doug Jones, but whether it's Doug Jones, Will Boyd, Yolanda Flowers, or Chig Martin, I think the same challenge exists, which is, regardless of who's in the governor's chair, isn't that ultimately going to be determined by the governor working in concert with the legislature? And do you think that we're going to have a cooperative legislature? I mean, I hope we do. But do you think we're really going to be able to, that a Democratic governor, whoever it is going to be able to work that out with a legislature that will in all likelihood still be predominantly Republican?
Yeah, and I don't mean to say it's definitely going to beat Doug Jones. I'm excited for this competitive primary.
Well, I mean, whoever it is, if it's Doug or if it's whoever it is, if it's Will, if it's Chig, if it's Yolanda, whoever it is, the bottom line is it's going to be a Democratic governor in all likelihood pushing for something that a Republican-dominated legislature is not going to want to do, right?
Yeah. So what I think the key there is that I think most of the Republicans in the legislature would be happy to do it. They just need to be able to blame someone else for it happening. I think there's a whole lot of things the legislature doesn't want to do, but they do anyway, or wants to do, but they don't do because that's the way it works, because there are powerful lobbyists who are telling them they can't do that thing. Because they think their voters would punish them, because in order to get ahead within your party structure, you have to be the most extreme on whatever issue. There's all these rules people are operating within, all these constrictions that they insist are real, that I think are mostly made up. And, for example, the vast majority, I think, of the legislature knows that it doesn't make sense to turn the PSC into an appointed body. But they don't feel that who's going to stand up and be the person who says it? Because everybody else is going to get Alabama Power money. And now you're the jerk who stood up against Alabama Power, and you're going to be the one person who doesn't get Alabama Power money. And it's still going to go Alabama Power's way. So people are chickening out. We've got a legislature that is chickening out from dealing with major issues because they're worried about their own careers, and they're worried about their standing within the party, and they're worried about keeping lobbyists happy. We need some we need some fighters who don't care and who will do what's right for the people of Alabama. I think we can do it. I think they'd be happy to have an excuse to get it done.
Okay. Well, I
Same
hope
for
you're
lottery.
right.
People know that it's
I
the
hope
right
you're
thing to
right.
do. They just
Yeah.
someone to take the fall for it.
Yeah, there is a lot of that. I hear a lot. I mean, it's it's not surprising. Business people at their core, they like stability. They like things. They don't like change. They don't like turmoil. They don't like chaos. They like to know what's going to happen. They like to be able to plan. And so that's the reason why it's so hard to get incumbents out most of the time, because they're so well funded by the businesses, and it really oftentimes doesn't even boil down to ideals or anything else like this. I mean, Alabama Power is doing what Alabama Power does, or what any energy company does, or what any company does. They're trying to make money. They're trying to make money. Then that's what they're doing. And the PSC is there to regulate this regulated industry that's a monopoly. And so I'm often get so irritated with people who get mad at the companies for trying to make money. It's the same way. It's the same people. It's the same people that get mad at the Porch Creek Indians over the gambling issues or whatever, and their proposals about things, and obviously they're a sponsor here, and but I've said this for years, well before they were. Why are you mad at them for doing the same thing every business is doing in this state, which is trying to protect the things that they have? It's insanity to me. It's still those folks who you elect. It's their job to look out for your interest, not the people who are running the businesses. It's not their job. It's their job to make money. Ethically, it's their job to make money ethically, I would say. But as long as they're doing that, they don't owe you anything else. But so before we let you go, because I know we got to go, but I did want to talk about the Democratic ticket because it looks like a really good one. And so what, how have y'all felt about this? How much work went into putting it together? How did it come together?
Yeah. So much work. It is pulling teeth sometimes to get people to run in a state where, again, most of the districts, it's predetermined which party's going to win. And the seats where a Democrat can win, there's already a Democrat there. Yeah. So not a lot, very hard to find people to run in those other seats, knowing that they, likely cannot win. Now, this year we're seeing lots of swings in other states. So if that same blue wave happens in Alabama and we get, 10 points more than we usually get, a whole bunch of new seats become, not a whole bunch, a handful of seats become competitive. So those were our priorities, is making sure that anything within 10 points was going to have a candidate. And for the most part, we got that. And all those statewide seats, having a full statewide ticket makes a huge difference in terms of motivation for people to show up to run. If you don't like your gubernatorial nominee, but you do like your attorney general candidate, that'll get you out, and vice versa. So a lot of work went into finding those people, and it takes months and months and months of cajoling and encouraging. And it really was a team effort. A lot of different people were involved in doing that and helping people to find their base of support so they could feel good about putting their name on the ticket. But I'm really proud of it. Really proud of what we accomplished.
It should be. I mean, it's strong all the way up and down. And and what was, I think, most impressive was, a lot of the small, what people would consider small time offices at the bottom. The folks at the bottom, and the judgeships and the circuit courts, and and then in the district courts and other things. They're people. They're Democrats that are running in those spots, and for other positions, those things are important. They're very important. That's the way that Republicans took control, are those positions. They focused on those things down at the bottom of the ticket that no one was paying attention to, as Karl Rove ran through here, doing his worst, and that's where he focused, and that's how we did it. So congratulations on that. It is a great ticket. I know you worked extremely hard with people to get that done, and hey, good luck against Will Barfoot. I think you got it. I think, we especially if you run ads in the right places, you'll really do that, and you get some good publicity from certain people, not naming any names. You'll do very, very well. I feel like, and let's be honest, smile more. Let's smile more, please. Okay.
Yeah. I'll do my best. Lots of smiling, and, yes, grateful for you putting my name out there as always. And we're gonna get this done. We're gonna be bold and fierce and unapologetic, and hope that the people are interested in that.
Yep, I think they will be. Good. I think they will be. All right, that is Tabitha Isner. Vote for her, or at least thank her for putting together a nice Democratic ticket, because I think she had a really big hand in doing so. So, all right, we're going to slide out. We'll come back in just a minute and wrap this thing up. It's Alabama Politics This Week. Back in a moment.